Hello, I have 5 new foundations to review and give you my thoughts on in today's foundation roundup. And as always, you'll see how they apply on me, what they look like and how they wear throughout the day, and what skin types I think would benefit the most from each. But I'm mixing things up today. I'm ranking these from least to most favorite, and I've given each foundation ratings based on certain criteria. How they apply, did they cover as they claim to, how they perform on pores and texture, and the finish, feel, and longevity to come up with a final rating for each foundation. Let me know at the end how you like this change, and I'll see if I stick with it for the next one. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I test out a lot of foundations, concealers, primers, complexion products in general because I'm in my upper 40s, almost 50, and as we age, it just gets harder and harder to find the right product. So let's go ahead and get into these foundations and see how they work for me and if they might work for you. This first foundation has been compared to Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation, so it might come as a surprise to you that it's my first one, since that means it's my least favorite. There are a few reasons for that, and that certainly doesn't mean it'll be your least favorite. Just because it doesn't work out for me doesn't mean it won't work out for you. It depends on our skin type, the climate we live in, skincare, all of those things. So this is one size, turn up the base, full beat foundation. And this is a great example as to why I don't do first impressions. I can't even count how many times I tried this and tested it using different methods, no primer, various types of primers. I even mixed up my skincare with it, thinking something was wrong with me. I don't do first impressions of foundations. I always test them several days, sometimes many days, and show you clips throughout that give a solid picture of my experience with each foundation. I am someone that needs to set my foundations with powder, but I always show you what they look like set and unset. The primers and powders that I normally use, along with each foundation and everything I'm sharing and wearing, are sourced and linked for you down in my description box and in the YouTube shopping icons. They just don't always have everything. So if you don't see something there, check the description box. So this is $44 for 1 ounce. There are 38 shades. They all leaned pretty yellow from what I could tell. I ended up with shade light 35N, which is light with neutral undertones. It's vegan and cruelty free, and it says that it has less than 1% synthetic fragrance. I don't notice a scent with it at all though. And it claims to be a full coverage, long wear, waterproof, sweat proof, comfortable foundation formulated with less than 16 ingredients that blurs and smooths without clogging pores. It has a moderately thick texture, and the application reminded me quite a bit of Estee Lauder Double Wear in that it starts to set very quickly as you blend it out. I have an entire video on how to apply Estee Lauder Double Wear without looking cakey. I'll have it linked up in the corner and down below if you're curious. It's helped a lot of people out. So I recommend applying this the same way with a damp sponge in thin layers in sections and sort of blending the sections into one another. If you want to see more detail on that, definitely reference that video after you finish this one. The end result can be really, really beautiful and natural. And although once you get used to it, it definitely doesn't take long. It's not as quick on an everyday basis when you want to quickly get out the door as a foundation you can just slap on and apply however. And unlike Estee Lauder Double Wear that performs really well on all areas of my face, which I should tell you about, I have a combination oily skin that is normal and can be dry around the perimeter, and I can have some dry patches around my nose too, and I get shine breakthrough in the center of my face. So I kind of deal with all skin types on my face. Double Wear really shines for me as far as that goes, and I did end up with some patchiness in areas where I had to press harder or layer a bit more, that had a bit more redness and some dryness going on, like around my nose. So I'm giving the application a 2 because it's a little more cumbersome and it kicked up some dryness. The coverage I agree with. It's medium full, buildable up to full, so I'm giving that a 5. So the finish on me is satin before setting, and after I do my makeup, after it's set with powder, it gives more of a natural matte finish. It looks really pretty. Now, a couple of hours after wearing it, every single time I tried it without a primer, with a primer, it didn't matter what type of primer, it starts to settle into my skin and emphasize pores and texture. And it also starts to to feel like I'm wearing makeup. And much to my surprise, I get really shiny with this when I don't wear a primer. I was actually stunned the first day I tried it without a primer, and I caught myself on camera in low light towards the end of the day. I went in brighter light and then saw how that shine was accentuating pores and texture. So I need a primer to combat shine, but when I wear a mattifying primer, I find some of them make application tricky because it wants to adhere to my skin even quicker in my normal areas, and then I get polka dot pores where the foundation just sticks down into my pores. And the few mattifying primers that applied okay, my skin started feeling dry later in the day, which is weird because normally they're fine. Application is fine with various types of non-mattifying primers and it feels good, but then I have issues later in the day with patchiness or it wears away. Like on this day, for example, when I blew my nose. I mean, what is that? It wears better for me on its own with no primer than it did some days with primers, even though it got shiny. I just have all kinds of random issues with this foundation, so my overall rating ended up being a 2.5. Now, my good friend Risa, who has oilier skin than I do, but lives in a drier climate, loves this, which really goes to show how much your skin type and climate, and possibly your skincare, can truly affect how a foundation performs for you. I tried this over a dozen times in various ways, and it just unfortunately does not work for me. And for me is nothing like a Estee Lauder Double Wear, but if you have more normal skin or live in less humidity than I do here in New Orleans, it might be fine. Now, this is a new to me foundation that I've had loads of requests to try, so I finally am. This is Jane Iredell Beyond Matte Liquid Foundation. This is a pricey little foundation. It's $52 for 0.9 ounce. There are 18 shades. I'm in shade M4, which is light to medium with neutral undertones. It's vegan, cruelty-free, fragrance-free, and alcohol-free. Now, they claim this is a lightweight primer, concealer, foundation, 3-in-1 type of product that gives semi-matte, natural-looking, medium to full buildable coverage. It's supposed to minimize the appearance of pores while reducing shine, yet hydrating at the same time. At first, it seems like the texture is a bit thick, but it feels thin once you start working with it. It's very quick and easy to blend out and apply using any method. Although I will say I had very, very little dryness going on, just some small bits around my nose and the sides of my forehead that weren't really an issue, but I could tell if those areas were any more severe, applying it with a brush would probably be an issue. So I'm giving application a 4. I am picking up on a slight, very, very faint, almost floral scent, which is from the ingredients that are in here because it is fragrance-free. There's nothing added. Now, they claim this is buildable for medium to full coverage, and I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I get light to medium coverage with this at best, maybe slightly over medium coverage, even when I use a brush or a dry sponge. And when I use a brush, I smooth out and press it into my skin a little bit further with a dry sponge. So even with those methods, I am not getting the medium buildable to full coverage they claim. But since I am getting medium, I'm giving coverage a 2. It's radiant before setting and has sort of a tackiness to it and feels unset for a long time. Once my makeup is complete and set, it turns into a really pretty soft matte finish and feels airy and lightweight. It feels like nothing. Without a primer, as I wear this throughout the day, it starts to settle into my pores and texture, and I get shine with it and I start to feel it. I'm aware of my face. And when I wear a mattifying smoothing primer with it, my pores look smoother and my shine is somewhat better, but it's still there. I have to blot pretty frequently with this matte foundation, Beyond Matte Foundation. It lasts around 6 to 7 hours on me tops. With all those things combined, it also ended up with a 2.5 rating. Now, if you have normal or maybe even combination skin and live in less humidity than I do, or if you're looking for a mineral foundation in particular, this might give you what you're looking for. But as it stands with my skin type and my climate, I cannot recommend this for oily combination skin. Okay, we're in the middle of the pack, and I have to say this would probably have been my second pick if I was ranking them based on the one I would reach for next after my top ranked one. But I ranked them based on what their final rating ended up being to be more objective, since we all have different skin types. So let me know in the comments after you watch this video how you feel about that. I mean, I haven't really ranked anything before. I've just gone in random order. So if you prefer more of that, I can go back to that too. So this is LYS Beauty Triple Fix Blurring Skin Tint Foundation Stick. It's $25 for 0.25 ounce. Now it's a stick foundation, so you can't compare apples to apples with liquids. There are 22 shades. I grabbed MN1 Ivory Beige, which is described as light medium skin with neutral undertones. It's vegan, cruelty-free, fragrance-free, and alcohol-free. And this is supposed to be an all-in-one serum primer and medium coverage skin tint. It's supposed to be lightweight, easy to blend, and give lasting hydration. It's supposed to smooth pores and texture and give a natural skin-like finish. Since this is a serum makeup hybrid, there are some really nice ingredients in here. I don't notice any scent straight from the stick, but I do notice a slight scent if I swipe it on the back of my hand and put my nose right up to it. It's just a very faint scent from the natural ingredients that are in here, but I don't notice it when I'm applying it or after it's applied. This is so creamy. It glides on smoothly like butter and blends out quickly and easily, no matter what method I used. It just did not matter, fingers, a brush, or a sponge. I'm giving application a 4 though, because there were a few little dry areas that seemed to be accentuated, which I found a little bit odd since it is such a creamy, hydrating product. I couldn't give it a 5 because of that. I would say coverage is light to medium, so I'm giving it a 4 for coverage. It has a radiant, glowy finish before setting. It does not set on its own, at least not on my skin. Even on my normal dry areas, I felt like if I touched it, it was going to just wipe right off. After I applied the rest of my makeup and set it, it has a beautiful, natural, flattering finish and feels very lightweight. I do get some shine with it, which is pretty much the nature of this type of product with this type of finish and hydration on my skin type in my climate, but it wears really well on me on a moderately long day, as long as I don't touch my face. I wouldn't say this is a transfer resistant product, but as long as you know that and you're not just touching your face, you should be fine. So this ended up with a 3.6 rating, which I think is pretty good since I'm so hard on foundations. I understand the comparison with the new-ish Dior stick foundation since they came out around the same time. Now I do have a review on that. I'll have that foundation roundup linked up in the corner and down in my description box too. And obviously they're both stick foundations, but they're very different from one another in my opinion. They both look really pretty and natural and skin-like. This has more glow to it, while Dior is a soft matte finish. I think this is better for combination to dry skin that wants light to medium coverage and maybe isn't as concerned with having that longevity, whereas Dior is going to give you medium to medium full coverage and is better, in my opinion, for oily to normal skin. As I said earlier, this isn't my personal number 2 pick, but it ranked here because of how it was rated, which is more objective, and I think it will probably serve a lot of you very, very well. So this is TIRTIR Mask Fit Aura Silver Cushion, which isn't necessarily the best for my particular skin type, but it could be for yours. So this is the mini size. You may remember my review of the red cushion, which I love, but for very different reasons. There are 20 shades. They may expand the shade range, they've said, to equal the number of shades in the red cushion. I'm in shade 23N across the TIRTIR line. If you want to see my foundation shade matches, by the way, I keep a running list over on my blog, Concealers too, and that is always linked in my description boxes. So this is cruelty-free and has SPF 30 PA++. Now this does have fragrance as about the 8th ingredient. It could be a natural fragrance, it could be synthetic, it has to be listed either way. It could be to mask natural ingredients in this product that would make the foundation smell bad otherwise. We just don't know. Now this has patented white hyaluronic acid that's supposed to infuse your skin with a rich, dewy, luminous glow and give you a healthy looking complexion. And it's supposed to give weightless, long-lasting, medium coverage. Now, unlike the red cushion, which I do love, this is much easier to control when it comes to coverage level. The application is quick and easy. You don't have to be as conservative with the amount you use to avoid getting cakey right away. It's just very easy to dip your sponge in, either the included sponge or your own. I often use my own beauty blender or makeup sponge dry. The application is just extremely quick and easy, and it gives light medium to medium coverage that beautifully smooths pores and texture and looks extremely skin-like and natural. Right after application, it looks pretty glowy, and after I set it with powder, it turns into almost a soft matte finish from the powder. This is definitely the glowiest and most hydrating rating of the 3 TIRTIR foundations. I have not talked about the other one yet. It's designed to be that way. It also has less coverage and it feels like I'm wearing nothing. Now for my skin type in my climate and just my personal taste, this just gets more radiant than I like. But it's still flattering even when that does happen. It doesn't exaggerate pores and texture when I do get shiny, which can happen with a lot of foundations. I find that without a primer, it wears away in my oilier areas at around 5.5 hours, which may have to do with me not having the proper skin type for this foundation. I prefer this with a primer for that reason. If you have dry or mature skin and you love a skin-like natural medium coverage foundation, I think this is fantastic. My rating ended up being a solid 4, even not having the right skin type for it. It was that pretty. I really didn't like both of my top 2 foundations being TIRTIR foundations, but it just worked out that way. And this is the one that is more suited to my skin type. I actually like this one better than this one, and this one was really good. This is the Mask Fit All Over Pink Cushion Foundation. There are also 20 shades in this one right now. I'm also in shade 23 and it's cruelty-free, alcohol-free, and this one has fragrance around 1/3 of the way down. And I do want to note that even though both this and the silver one have fragrance, I don't notice a fragrance to them. I think that fragrance is there to mask ingredient scents. If anything, they smell very, very faintly fresh. This has SPF 50 PA+++, and it has titanium dioxide, a mineral sunscreen, as the 3rd ingredient. There are a lot of nice skincare ingredients in here, and this one is supposed to give weightless, long-wearing, semi-matte full coverage that stays fresh and radiant throughout the day. So I find this one applies so much quicker and easier than the red one, and it's much easier to control the coverage. There was a learning curve with that red one. Some people hated it right away because it just looked like a mask. You have to tap off a lot of excess because the tiniest bit goes the longest way. I just find you don't have to be as careful. You can apply this pretty normally. I would say it's buildable from medium to just above medium full. I don't think it gives quite as much coverage as the red cushion, which I don't mind. It applies well to all areas of my face, my shine prone and my dry areas, and adheres, fuses with your skin beautifully to look natural and skin-like. You can tell it's meant to be budge proof as you're applying it, yet it's still easy to work with and build. It feels lightweight and it gives a natural radiant satin finish after application, which I was really surprised about since this is supposedly matte. After I finish applying my makeup and setting it, it looks flattering and has a soft matte finish. It lasts well throughout the day, and as my natural oils start to settle in, as they always do, I find it settles into sort of a satin matte finish, and by the end of a long day, I have some shine going on, but it's manageable. It's more of a true satin finish at that point, but it's not radiant. It feels good on my skin all day. It doesn't make me feel dry, tight like many matte foundations do, and it doesn't exaggerate texture or settle into fine lines. This to me is better for everyday getting ready. It's got more buildable coverage that's easier to control than this one, and instead of giving me that masky matte look I thought it was going to give me, it just meshes with my skin nicely. So I would say this is for anyone who wants a shine controlling foundation that's easy to work with, looks natural, and has nice coverage. My final rating ended up being a 4.5. I have been reaching for this so much that I'm getting ready to buy a full size. Let me know in the comments if you tried any of these and what your thoughts are on the ranking, the ratings, and all of that for next time. You can check out more foundation reviews here. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.